Hi, and welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. And on today's episode, I'm very excited to be joined by CJ Leede to talk about Maeve Fly. How's
Thank
it going,
you.
CJ?
It's great. I'm waking up here in California, but it's a beautiful day.
Oh my God. And your makeup's so on point for first thing. I'm just saying.
Thank you. It looks good when I first put it on, and then throughout the day as things happen, it's sort of you just devolve.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you've caught me
I'm
at the
more
nice moment.
I'm nearer the end of the day. So
You look great.
so what can you tell all the people watching out there about Mayfly without too many spoilers?
So she works as a princess at a big amusement park that you may or may not have heard of. And she plays a particular ice princess from a movie with a very famous song. And that's her day. By night, she sort of like bar hops and reads a lot of really like misanthropic literature, and then also she has some tastes that skew much darker.
Mhm.
um and I guess it's not a spoiler because it's written all over the book, but she also murders people, so there's
Throw that
that.
in.
Yeah, so that's pretty
um
much the book.
yeah. Now this it kind of feels like a story kind of split into segments in a way, because you almost kind of start off with a kind of character study of who she is. So how did May first come into being for you?
So I was I, I had lost some people. There was some tough stuff going on in life. It was COVID. It was here. We were about to have a huge election. And I had just driven from California to New York to see my mom and my boyfriend's mom. And it was really like the pre-election country was, I mean, it was just insane, the energy everywhere. Um, so all of that, I was feeling a lot of uh I'm gonna say the word rage, which is something I'd never felt in my entire life. Like I've never really been an angry person. But it just was too much. So I kind of turned to books as one does, and I felt a bit frustrated because I really like classics, and they're just, there aren't women in classics who are super like misanthropic the way that the men are. And, of course you do have, and like I think I mentioned this in the book, but you've got somebody like Anais Nin who really like goes on the sexual front, which is amazing, or like Sylvia Plath, which really hits the sad girl front, which is also amazing. But like I was rageful. And so I reread Notes from Underground and Story of the Eye, and I read American Psycho actually for the first time. Um,
Wow.
and I just thought, I think there's like potential here, and even newer stories I was seeing. And granted, like these were just things that I could get my hands on. There are tons of great things doing this now, but at this time, like the female written and female protagonist stories I was finding, like all these women had to have like a traumatic backstory in order to then become monstrous. Like something happened to them. And I just thought, like, we're all victims in daily life. And I just didn't want to be in fiction. And I thought, like, why don't we get to have that same fun that men do? Like Patrick Bateman, there was nothing really wrong with his life. So, what I loved so much about like Notes from Underground and American Psycho is that they do spend time really establishing the characters. You really do get to just kind of like sink into their minds, chill out with them a little bit, like have the kind of day to day. And then you're like, oh, yeah, they're seriously fucked up also. And I love that.
Yeah, it's such a interesting thing, kind of touching on the issue of rage, because it's definitely something obviously quite visceral, something we all kind of feel, especially during COVID and not being able to kind of see your family and yeah,
Yeah.
just the state of the world as a whole, and to kind of embrace that in quite a positive way and bring us such like a wonderful but messed up in the best possible way book.
I'm so glad. I just wanted it to be a fun romp and
Yeah.
cathartic and like, really an escape from everything.
Mm. Yeah, we
So
need more. We need more of this. So. I suppose it's weird to say you can kind of understand Maeve to a point. Obviously, you
yeah.
don't say, "Oh yeah, I'm all for." But
Well, I'm glad you feel that. I mean, I wanted her to have reasons to do things that were like made sense with her internal logic, but again, without being like, hey, you should actually like I didn't want to do any moralizing. Like she kills people who don't deserve to be killed.
yes,
She's a monster. Like I hope that we love her, but also like I definitely wasn't trying to say like she deserves her retribution. Like I just wanted her to have the total freedom and like creative range to just be really bad. And that was so fun, but she's loyal too. Like she's got good qualities, I think. So
oh yeah, yeah, no, definitely. There's the way she cares about obviously her grandma, the way she cares about the cat. Yeah, and she has that obviously the friendships and stuff in her life which are important. So
yeah.
yeah, she's very interesting character, very interesting character. And such kind of, I suppose, like dark comedy. Like, so what's your writing process like? Like, where does this all come from?
Usually I really inundate myself with whatever books or histories or like things I'm trying to interact with. So like to the left of my desk here, I actually have a shelf that's just each shelf is a stack of books for different books I'm working on. So I'll kind of like read a ton, I'll make a playlist, I make a Pinterest board, and I've gotten flagged on Pinterest a lot of times actually. I think they're going to like suspend my account at some point because apparently you can't pin dark stuff too much. Um and I just try and like saturate myself with within those worlds, and then I'll sit down and outline. Usually that takes me a week or two. With Maeve it took me 2 days, and then I just kind of write. And so for Maeve, like I don't know, that book clawed its way out of me. It took under 5 months, even with like multiple edit rounds and like getting it ready for to go out for sale. So it was pretty quick.
Wow, it's like she demanded to be written.
It kind of felt that way. It's like an annoying thing to say because some books take, 5 years or
Mm,
whatever. But yeah, it just happened.
yeah. I, I mean, it's as we touched on just then as well, it's definitely it's one of those almost like a book about books as well. There's so many kind of
Yeah.
mentions, like you said, of different kind of classics. Is that kind of where your first kind of love of reading and foray into reading, or was that kind of more of a recent thing, kind of the classics?
Well, so I grew up reading sci-fi fantasy mostly. I was all about it. And I read a lot of YA in my early 20s. And like that was a whole world that I just discovered at that time. And that was like a real heyday for that as well. So that was fun. And then I ended up going to grad school, and that was like a literary program. So it was, for me, I didn't know I wanted to be a writer until later, like right before I started applying for grad schools. And it was my first time reading like Nabokov. It was my first time reading so many people. And I remember like first time reading Turn of the Screw, and it just, this whole world opened up. And at the same time, I was one of the only people writing like genre fiction. There were a few in our program, but I felt that it was kind of presented like, you're writing literary fiction or you're writing genre fiction, and there's no crossover. And I just feel like there's actually a ton of crossover, and there can be. And like, why not? It's fun.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's become, I suppose, more accepted now. We had the lovely Trip Gailey on the other day, and we were talking about the acceptance of geek, the acceptance of horror, and how things have kind
Yeah.
of like moved forward, which is obviously great to see. We're not the outcasts anymore, so
Woo. And anyway, like being the outcast is fun too.
yeah, like we miss it. It's like
Yeah.
so the with the kind of the pace of the book, I have to say, like I flew through it in what, 2 days, and it really kind of like picks up the pace as things start to kind of unravel. Um, so you mentioned kind of the Patrick Bateman vibes there, but almost more with a feminist twist. So kind of what did you take from Patrick in particular as, you know,
Well, I
your hero?
love that's so funny. Definitely the music. I
Yes.
mean, he loved his Huey Lewis and the News. And I feel that the way I felt writing this book was like I didn't want to write a nihilistic character who didn't like anything and was so like over the world. Like it can be boring to read that. Like we want to find people who love things and have interests and passions, and that was really important to me to have in there. So I love Halloween and Halloween music, and it just kind of like clicked into place for me. I was like, great, that's easy. Um, I love, I think like every day, my Roman Empire, I would say, is Patrick Bateman's skincare routine. And I think about it a lot. Um, Obviously, Maeve is like in many ways actually a less vain character, I would say.
Hmm.
In some ways she's very vain, but just physically I think she's a little less vain. And but I wanted her to have routines, and I liked the idea that every single day she did the same things and she was very regimented about it. And that makes it so easy too when somebody comes in and changes everything, you know, for her to get really destabilized. So I think those were the main things. And then, you know, she reenacts one scene that I won't talk about.
Yeah, go buy the book, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely kind of feel her kind of fragmented kind of nature, and as things kind of slowly pull apart, it definitely kind of resonates, because I think obviously I suppose we all have our routines, and especially if you obviously writing during lockdown in particular, we all became like we have a new routine and we do this and we don't do this, and so to have
Absolutely.
that kind of
And we cling to those things, you know, and they give us this real sense of order and power over the world. But the reality is like the world's going to throw shit at us. You know, people are going to get sick in your life, or you know, you could get sick, or like just anything can, a pandemic can happen, you know.
yeah.
So I think uh or somebody can, you know, make moves away from their relationship with you. So it's I liked this idea. You know, I think the entire book is her really feeling that she has any control and realizing she doesn't.
Yes, yeah. And I think as well, like it's interesting the kind of nature, I suppose, of friendships, and especially female friendships, because I think quite often it's certain points of your life and you kind of get
Yeah.
the high school best friend, and quite often that person is your sole kind of, this is my kind of anchor almost. And then, 10 years later, they're not even part of your life anymore. It's just an interesting thing, I think, with female friendships in particular.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And I think in many ways the I think female friendships are such like a they're so rife with possibility. Like there are so many horror books about this, you know, because I think so many of us, like, you don't tend to find a romantic partner so early in life. I know some people do, but when you establish those bonds so young, like you're saying, I mean, inevitably you're changing, somebody's changing.
yeah,
So, and it's very painful when somebody exits your life,
yeah, yeah.
or when you have to exit theirs, you know, like that's a very difficult. I actually think people don't give enough weight to the end of like friendships as they do like breakups of romantic relationships, you know?
Yeah, and it's very weird sometimes as well when you see that person like years later as well. That's
Yeah.
super bizarre. Someone needs to do some more horror about that because that's
Oh yeah.
that's weird. So we have some within Maeve Fly some really interesting ideas about, I suppose, the horrific deeds of men and how that's seen from kind of woman's perspective, how it can't just be part of their nature, and they shouldn't, touching on the rage issue, they shouldn't have this rage, and they shouldn't have this kind of, you know, need to change things or destroy things in some way. So yeah, where did that kind of ideas come from, kind of looking at the, I suppose, the men versus women, especially within, as you said before, in other books?
Yeah. And I think in life, I think in many ways we've been in a really beautiful moment of like everybody's going to therapy, which is awesome, and dealing with like a lot of, you know, old shit. But I think also what I see on the internet is a lot of like, you know, I've been, you know, I don't know how to say, like, I've been through this, so I am this, you know, like
Hmm.
I had this dynamic with my family, so I am this. And I think like that's become kind of the conversation, is like that, you know, our experiences make us into who we are. And of course they do. But I see it, I don't know, I feel that I want a possibility that you can also just come into this world and, despite anything that's happened to you, kind of choose who you are. And I love the idea that like a character could just exist like the male ones already do, who is just that way. Additionally, I feel that by making women always have these like traumatic background stories, like even that corporation that owns the hypothetical park at which my main character is a princess, they've been putting movies out now, and I like them, they're good, where it's like the female villains backstories, and all of their origin stories are literally like men doing bad things to them, so men retain the power. And
Hmm.
it's like it's almost a reminder that like men are the powerful ones, and we can only become powerful in this monstrous way if they've done something to us, because we can then moralize it. And I think we're really afraid societally of like Medea was amazing way back in the day, because Medea, she was just monstrous. Like she just did really bad stuff. She did something, she did the scariest thing we can think of, which is like a mother kind of, you know. But I think we don't allow women the freedom, even in fiction, to just be as powerful, even in a really fucked up way, as men. And I think that's crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. That, I think that's what the kind of mythology trend that's happening at the moment in fiction. It's great to see, like, there was a book earlier this year, Clytemnestra, and kind of
Yeah.
reclaiming those
Yeah, the Greeks
strong
were great.
women.
They
Oh,
knew.
yeah, we need to go back.
They were like men and women, like both really fucked up. I loved
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah. But there's just so much in there that needs to be explored. But yeah, no, it's great. Um, so touching on the kind of the books, so are there any particular favorite books of yours that kind of have influenced your writing? Or is there any kind of, I suppose, maybe an underrated book that more people should be reading that you would recommend?
I talk about this book all the time because I think it blows my mind. But have you read Library at Mount Char?
I haven't, no, but I know Titan now have the rights to it.
Oh, they
So
do? Good.
next time I'm in the office, I can go upstairs and grab
Way to
one.
go, Titan. That was a good move, because this book, this guy, as far as I know, he's written nothing else
Hmm.
except actually maybe like some Linux programming books. So
Wow.
which is
Okay.
amazing. Uh, but it's like such a flash in the pan, like genius. I've read this book so many times I can't count. I've never read anything so original and kind of like mind expanding and really dark. And I think it was, for me, coming from like sci-fi fantasy and kind of like tiptoeing into horror at first, it was a book that just really made me realize like, holy shit, you can do anything you want to do. Like all of the elements of that book make no sense together, and he makes them make perfect sense. It's I'm a huge fan of his, but there are so many authors I love, and I mean, of course, like tons of Stephen King. Um, you know, he's the guy for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, I've been going through actually a lot of the Titan and Nightfire titles, so that's been really fun. I feel it also makes me feel amazing because I'm like, really, I get to be among all these people. But yeah, it's been there are so many insanely amazing writers out there right now. I did get to study under very briefly Victor Laval, but he's like I mean, like The Changeling, I think is one of the best books ever written. It's so tight. It's so like it's beautiful. If you haven't read it, I would really recommend.
I do need to, and I think I've got a copy of, because we do US imports as well at Forbidden Planet, so I think I've got a copy of Lone Women
I
around
haven't
here
read that
somewhere.
one yet.
I do need
I'm
to.
so excited.
But yeah, the Titan list is incredible. I'm hoping we can get loads of people over for Worldcon next year because it's in Scotland, so you'll be nearer if
That would be awesome.
make your way over. So it would be very cool to do something with well, the Titan alum of the moment. Top notch. So we have to obviously come back to the cat as the most important character. So you always get a bit nervous when there's animals in books, especially horror books. Yeah, I was nervous, and I think I remember like looking on your bio and seeing that, oh, okay, she's got dogs, okay, so she likes animals, okay, so hopefully the cat's fine.
Yeah, I will say, here's what I'll say. I can't promise that that's going to be the case in every book, but I will promise that I will never make it human cruelty toward animals, but rather like uh as an animal lover, I mean, everybody's like gone through the loss of an animal at one point or other. And I think it's one of the worst things you can go through in life. And so I do think it probably will come into some of my books because I think it's the scariest thing there is. But so actually consider this the warning, everybody, because but yeah, Lester the cat, he's good.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. Is Leicester based on a cat you know?
No, and I don't know many cats. We have a dog household. I love cats. Oddly, there's this thing where every cat I meet bites me. So I don't know like what vibe I'm putting off or like what the issue is, but I really like cats for that reason. Like I like respect them. You know, they put me in my place very quickly and then we just sort of move on. So, but it seems right that they would have this cat.
Yeah, no, it does seem like a kind of, because in a way they are a low maintenance pet, and I think that suits both
Absolutely.
both Maeve obviously and her grandmother. They wouldn't want to be grooming a dog and like bathing and stuff. Like a cat's just out for the day doing its own thing and then turns it when it needs to eat.
100%. And they live a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
they sort of just endure. And I loved the idea of like everything in this household being kind of like frozen and stuck in time in a way, you know, until it's not.
Yes, yeah, there's almost I kind of had a little bit Sunset Boulevard kind of
Yes,
vibes.
I watched that when I was writing this, and I
Yes.
wanted that. That was really like one of my main influences, actually.
God,
So I'm so glad.
yeah, you can just definitely like I think I've got to rewatch it now. Definitely got that.
It's
Like,
it's a very affecting movie, actually. It's really kind of, you know, there's a real darkness to that. It's pretty
I,
beautiful.
yeah, definitely. And I think it also kind of like affects more like as you get older. I think when I first watched it, I was like a teen studying like film at college. So, you know, you kind of get one reading from it. And then, you know, as you progress in 30s, 40s and beyond, you're just like, oh, okay, there's a whole other, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, and aging is frightening for all of us, or even not on like the sort of like cosmetic level, but just like, you know, we're all kind of hurtling toward one thing, and we know that. And I think like that is so much of the horror genre, right? Is all of us kind of like trying to find ways to grapple with that and come to terms with it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Kind of comes back to the Patrick Bateman thing, you know, with all the kind of beauty supplies and trying to look perfect and
Yeah.
ageless in a way.
Yeah, keep it all going as long as you can. It's that total like false sense of control.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely hits. It definitely hits.
It is.
Yeah, oh yeah. So to finish off our interview today, I always like to find out what our guests are currently reading, watching, and if you're a gamer, what you're playing. So what are your answers?
Okay. Well, I just finished two books this last week. I finished Everything the Darkness Eats, Eric LaRocca, and Black Sheep, Rachel Harrison.
Oh,
And they were both so
so
good.
good.
I
Yeah.
love them. Highly recommend both. Um, actually, I'm I've been binging a lot of Halloween and fall romance novels. So I'm currently in the middle of one that I'm pretty sure is just going to end up being like erotica. But I just started it, called Jack. The cover is like Jack at Lantern, and like a really
Oh,
ripped
yeah.
shirtless man. So I have very highbrow taste here. What the second part was what I'm watching.
Yes, yeah.
Um, every year I am all about Mike Flanagan at this time of year. So Hill House, I love. Midnight Mass was my absolute favorite. So I'm about to start a rewatch. Also, I've never actually seen all the Halloween movies, so I'm about to dip into all of them. And we do watch every episode of UK Love Island in this house. So there's always that. This last season's pretty good.
Oh my God. I love this. My guilty pleasure, like watching, is Housewives.
Love it.
Yeah, it's just, you know,
I love it. I think there is nothing better than mindless reality TV, which actually isn't mindless at all because you're watching human beings being human beings. It's pretty interesting.
there you go. It's research. It's all research.
I'm not currently gaming, but I do have two games I play, and only two games, and I sort of bring them back usually in winter. And they're kind of the only ones I've ever been interested in, and it's Skyrim and Witcher. And I like to keep them on a sort of little repeat. I've never finished either. I don't really want to. I'm like going to freaking university in there. I'm doing like little side quests and having a good time just exploring.
Oh, I mean, but both good choices, and they're both humongous games as well. So
Yeah, huge. I love the scores. I think that's like a big part of it. And I'm very into like excursions and outdoors and getting out into the mountains and things. And so I like doing that in games too.
yeah, because you walk and stuff a lot, don't you, as well? Like in your
Yeah.
it's in
Yeah.
your downtime.
I like to move.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of trail running, my boyfriend and me. We do a lot of walking together and separate. The longest stint I've ever done in the mountains was 1,000 miles, but I want to get that number higher. So
Okay.
in one go.
Yeah.
Um, so, you know, we live, part of why I moved from New York to California was just to get near bigger mountains, desert, ocean. everything. So that was kind of, actually, we have the biggest trees too here. California.
Come to California.
But there are a lot of tall mountains, so we got some good stuff ahead.
Is there some good indie bookshops and like around to recommend as well?
Yeah, 100%. So LA actually has over 60 independent bookstores, which
Oh,
is the most shocking thing. Like nobody knows this.
yeah.
So except last year, LA Times just did like a whole write-up on all of them. So maybe everybody knows it now. But we didn't know it coming from New York, and we were like, such dumb New York snobs, and we thought we're leaving the literary world behind us. Like it's in the cold big cities only. And so we got here and were proven very wrong. And actually, it's funny. He and I just started a little like web series where we're basically going to independent bookstores and like showing them. So we're actually going and shooting one today. But I love all the bookstores here. Diesel, Village Well, Book Soup, Zibby's. Those are like all my closest ones, and there are tons. I mean, it's the city rocks.
Oh my God, it's such a good idea to do the videos. So I quite often I'll watch Clay McLeod Chapman does those little like
Oh, he's
go
so
around
great.
the horror store with me kind of thing. And it's just
Yeah.
they're so crazy, but I love them.
Well, if you want to, ours is called Nobody Reads in LA. If you want to check it out.
Oh my God. Okay, right. Checking that out.
Clay's the man. I'm actually about to start What Kind of Mother. I'm really excited to read it.
Yes, yeah. I think I'm waiting on a proof because obviously that's another one Tyne have picked up. We've picked up Tyne so much.
I'm crushing it.
They're just doing the Lord's work, right? So,
The Dark Lord.
Yeah, the Dark Lord, of course. The best. But yeah, thank you so much for starting your day with us here. It was great to have you. And yeah, we've obviously got copies of Maeve Fly. It's published now. It's out in all of our stores, and we may have some book plates on the way, folks. So at home, you should be able to get a signed copy very soon, which will be very exciting. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.